Welcome, everyone. We always like to start off our classes with giving because how we give, that's how Hashem's going to give to us. Let's give generously so Hashem can and will give us generously. I'm going to put some coins in the tzedakah box. Please join me from home. We also are going to say a couple of names for Tehillim today. Refuah Shalema for Chana Yenta Rivka Bas Shindo, Chana Bela Bas Devora, Yosef ben Devora Leah, Rezel Bas Hadas, Refuah Chaimer ben Sima Chasha, Devora Leah Bas Yakaliba, Esther Bela Bas Yehudis Chaya, Mercedes ben Esther, and Pesach ben David, and for everyone that needs. We're also going to say Psalm 20, Tehillim, Kapitel Chaf. The Tzemach Tzedek says if we only knew the impact that Tehillim does, we would say a day and night. We're saying Tehillim now for the hostages to return immediately, and Hashem should protect all the Jews around the entire world. So please join me. I'm going to try to say it slowly. Lam Natseach Mizmar LeDavid, Yancha Adonai B'yam Tzara, Yisa Gevcha Shem Elahei Akayv, Yishlach Ezracha Mikadesh, Umitzian Yisadecha Yiskar Kol Min Chaisecha, Ve'elascha Yidash Nasela, Yitain Lacha Chavavefcha V'chol Atzascha Yimalei, Naranena Bishua Secha, Uveshem Eloheinu Nidgal Yimalei Adonai Kol Mishalei Secha, Ata Yedaiti Ki Yashia Adonai Mishicha Yanehu Mishmei Kachai V'Gurai Seisha Yiminai. Ela Varacha V'Ela Vasosim Ba'anachnu B'Shem Adonai Eloheinu Naskir Hema Karu V'Nafalu Ba'anachnu Kamnu V'Nisaydad Adonai Yashia HaMelach Yanenu V'Yankarenu. So our class today, this week we're going to be having two classes. We are doing preparation for Gimel Tammuz, the passing. It's been 30 years since the passing of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and today we're going to talk about the impact that he still has on the world. And we have with us Mendy Katz from Bell Harbor, Florida, who is a shliach and a huge influencer for many and a friend to many, and we're so lucky to have him with us today. So Mendy, if you can bring us back a little bit, the day of passing Gimel Tammuz, and you recently wrote an article on CO Live, just saw it now, didn't know about this before we planned this, but I'm going to ask a couple of questions based on that article. So I want to know from you as a child, where were you? How did the Rebbe impact your life? And what was it like that day of his passing for you? We're just going to unmute. Welcome, Mendy Katz.
So yes, the good thing is that my story is a little different than many others, is because of my parents brought me to the Rebbe at a very young age. From my earliest memories, I was with the Rebbe on important dates. Every Simchas Torah I was at the Rebbe. I never missed Hakafis with the Rebbe since 5 years old. So I had many good years of interaction with the Rebbe, and it was I think that puts things a little in perspective. But going back to the time frame before the Rebbe's passing, when the Rebbe had a stroke in 1992, that was a very challenging time when you have a Rebbe that comes out to davening 3 times a day, prayers 3 times a day, gatherings every Shabbos, is talking for hours and hours, and you're in the presence of greatness, in the presence of you're mesmerized, you're in awe, and then all of a sudden in one minute it's not there anymore. It's a very difficult, challenging time. So it was 2 years of very 2.5 years of very challenging times. And then of course that unfortunately that day came, the 3rd of Tammuz, which falls out this Monday night, Tuesday, July 9th. Yes, I remember that day very vividly. There was already issues. There was in the hospital, in Beth Israel Hospital. He had a second stroke a couple months earlier. It was a devastating stroke, and it was a Motzei Shabbos, a Saturday night, and I don't remember the exact time, but 1 in the morning. We knew already something was going on. We were on the street in the near the hospital, and then we found out there was a beeper went off, and everyone knew, but it was no even though the Rebbe was sick for 2.5 years. No one, no one was really prepared for that, and it was very, very, very confusing, very, very challenging, and there was no real path forward. No one really knew how this, where we would go from this. But 30 years later, it's unimaginable what happened. I mean, no one could have written this script. No one. There's no one in the world. The biggest believer in Chabad and Lubavitch and Hasidism, no one could believe how strong the Rebbe's impact is 30 years later.
Wow. So it must have been a very emotional time for everyone. I mean, I myself was 9 years old when the Rebbe passed away. It left an impact on my life. I was blessed to have met him and gotten dollars, but I can't even imagine what it was like for someone older that really, like, that was their life. Every single Shabbat, every time there was a sicha, the Rebbe would say words of Torah, and everyone would come out, the people would go out, and all of a sudden it was lost. So I know that I asked many people, I interviewed them, and I said, did you take advantage of, like, while the Rebbe was here? And they said, we never knew that he's not going to be here physically, and we didn't take enough advantage of it. So my question for you is, okay, so that day was
I took advantage of it.
Okay, you took advantage of it. So can you tell us how you took advantage of?
Well, I think, we could go on and on to talk about being in the Rebbe's presence and what that was like. But I don't think that's really fair to the people watching here who may not have ever been in the Rebbe's presence. I think we need to focus on how someone, excuse me, how someone could be connected to the Rebbe now, how someone could connect to the Rebbe now. And you may think, well, that's crazy. I mean, the Rebbe hasn't been alive for 30 years. How could you be connected to someone you never met? But the Rebbe addresses that. The Rebbe talks about that head on, because the Rebbe, remember, always talked about his father-in-law, the previous Rebbe, as the Rebbe. And from 1950 until 1992, the Rebbe would speak about how people could be connected to his father-in-law who never met his father-in-law. And he said, you're connected if you study his teachings. You're connected if you are connected to one of his followers. If you are connected to a Chabad person who was in the Rebbe's presence, if you're connected to an emissary of the Rebbe, then you're connected to the Rebbe. So anyone and everyone can be connected to the Rebbe. It's not a difficult thing. It doesn't happen by itself. You have to do something about it. And first and foremost, the Rebbe says you have to study his teachings, and these teachings are very, very available online, free of charge, and very easily accessible. And then there's going to the Ohel. That's the other way to connect. And this is a phenomenon in Judaism that goes back thousands and thousands of years, that people pray at gravesites of holy people, and a gravesite of a Rebbe is even different than even the gravesite of just a regular tzaddik, because a Rebbe has powers that a tzaddik doesn't have. A Rebbe has a soul connection to every Jew, because a Rebbe is a leader of the Jewish people. A Rebbe is a general soul. And that the Rebbe talks about this at length, especially in the last mimer, in the last discourse he gave out to everyone right before he had the stroke. Discusses the relationship of Moses with the Jewish people, and how God wants that there should be a Moses in every generation, that in every generation there was a Moses, just like Mordechai in the story of Purim was a Moses. And the Rebbe was talking about his father-in-law, who was the previous Rebbe, how he was the Moses of his generation, and alluding to himself as being, the Rebbe was very humble. He never talked about himself. Like I said, the Rebbe's entire time that he was a leader of Chabad Lubavitch movement, the world Jewish leader by all accounts, never referred to himself really as the Rebbe. He always said, my father-in-law is the Rebbe, even though his father-in-law passed away in 1950. But the Rebbe hinted. He never spoke openly, but he hinted, and he gave us this parting gift of this discourse, Vater Tetzaveh, which which discusses in great detail why it's important to be connected to a Rebbe, and how to connect, and how to use those powers that the Rebbe gives you to connect to God. And just in short, there's a lot of purposes for a Rebbe, but the main purpose for a Rebbe is that we are limited in our ability, because we have an evil inclination and our soul is enclosed in a body. We're limited in our ability to connect with God, and our faith in God is not as intrinsic as it could be, and we sometimes don't have the power to make that faith in God intrinsic. And the Rebbe is the one that connects us to God in an intrinsic way, and takes our belief in God and our trust in God and internalizes it. That's just one aspect of a Rebbe. So it's like I said, the most important thing is that and by the way, connecting to a Rebbe on his yard site on the day of his passing is even more powerful, because every single thing the Rebbe accomplished in his lifetime, all his Torah study, all of his commandments, all his influence, all of his impact comes to the forefront on his day of his passing, on his yard site, and it's elevated to a higher level. And being that the Rebbe is no longer enclosed in a body, he has even more ability to connect with anyone who wants to be connected to him.
Okay, so for people that many people weren't there with the Rebbe, and you mentioned in your article how today's impact of these children that never met the Rebbe, some of them, they have even a stronger connection to the Rebbe. So could you expand on that a little bit, how that could be possible by not meeting someone for someone like the Rebbe to have an impact on them? And how can someone that never met the Rebbe, how can they have a connection, form a connection? And if you can tell us some stories from the Ohel, I know you're very passionate about it. You're very passionate about many things, but I think your biggest passion is taking on the mitzvah of Tefillin, because every time I see you, you're with Tefillin. You put Tefillin on strangers. That's not your job. You are a shliach. You work for the Aleph Institute, but anytime there's a wedding, you set up shop there, all of a sudden there's a pop-up table, you're putting on Tefillin, and I'm sure you have many stories of how you impacted a Jewish person. But the reason why you do this is because it was so important to the Rebbe to put on Tefillin on every single person. And we know today that it says it in the holy books that when we put on Tefillin, even one time in your life, there's a place for you in Olam Haba, in the world of truth. And it doesn't matter, like, if you didn't do anything in your lifetime, but you put it on one time, and that's what the Rebbe wanted, that everyone should benefit from, the spiritual realms. And it's also known today that when we put on Tefillin, it makes the enemies fear us. So it's not really about us putting on Tefillin, it's about, doing the deed. And you are, doing the Rebbe's will, because that's what he wanted. He got very much, I would say, pushback by many leaders to put on Tefillin on a secular Jew, but the Rebbe really looked at the Jewish people as every single person. There's no such thing as a secular Jew. We all come from God, and we're very godly. And sometimes, it's not our fault. We don't, we come from a different background, or someone went through some challenges, and that's why they are the way they are. But the Rebbe said, every single person is a world. So if you can expand on that a little bit. I just wanted to give a little bit background what you do. I'm very, very inspired by your Tefillin, and I hope we're going to inspire people. You don't have to be a Chabad chassid to put on Tefillin on another person. Every single Jewish man could put on Tefillin on another Jewish person.
So you asked a lot of questions there. I'll start with the first one. So how do people get impacted by the Rebbe without even meeting him? So there's different types of people. I mean, I'll start with my children.
I know it's a very emotional question because, you know, the Rebbe is so dear to you and to so many of us. So just take a moment and I just
So,
really want to
I
inspire.
know. It's my children never met the Rebbe, and I have two married children, and my oldest daughter, Chaya, is on shlichus in Turks and Caicos with her husband and two children for about 5 years, close to 5 years. And my son recently got married, and he's going on shlichus. He's going to open up a Chabad house in Amelia Island near Jacksonville. And like you said, I do a lot of different projects, and most of them are very, very fulfilling. My work with the Ohel Info is unbelievably fulfilling, helping Jews in prison and in the military, and putting on tefillin with so many Jews is very fulfilling. But there's nothing as fulfilling and as proud as having your children being official representatives of the Rebbe and being committed 24/7 to the Rebbe's mission and the Rebbe's work. And the fact that these kids, my son is 23 years old, that he's willing to pick up 10 months after he got married with zero money in the bank, with zero promises from anyone, to just pick himself up and move to a city with his wife is incredible. It's no one no one could explain that. There's no mathematical equation to that. It's insanity. My son's moving to a place, there's no kosher food there, there's no mikvah, there's no school, but 45 minutes away in Jacksonville there is. But there are other couples that are moving to Siberia and moving to middle Timbuktu, and it's unbelievable. I think that's the story. I think that if you want to point to the Rebbe's impact 30 years later, I don't think there's a greater impact than that to show. I don't think there's a greater way to put that, to present the Rebbe's impact than 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds picking this up and moving to Timbuktu just to fulfill the Rebbe's mission. But of course, the Rebbe's impact is much, much greater than that. Much greater than that. The Rebbe's impact is so powerful, so strong, and we don't even recognize it anymore because the Rebbe's message and the Rebbe's mission has become synonymous with Judaism. There's no Jewish group, there's no Jewish activity, there's no Judaism that is not influenced by the Rebbe today. Every single Jewish organization is mimicking Chabad, is mimicking the Rebbe, not mimicking. They realize that this is the only way, that the Rebbe's approach of love and acceptance and outreach and it is the only way that works. And it's this, like I said, the Rebbe and Judaism are synonymous. They're no longer separate. So it's very hard to identify the Rebbe's impact. Even though we could go through all the Chabad houses. What's the number of the Chabad houses are today? 6,000 Chabad houses.
So from your article that you wrote, and when the Rebbe was here with us physically, there was 1,500 Chabad houses, Chabad couples that went out. And now today, you mentioned there's over 6,000 couples that are around the globe spreading light and love like the Rebbe would have wanted. And if you meet any shliach that is a Chabad, is a representative of the Rebbe, every single one is different, but they all have the same goals and values, and that is the Rebbe's message, each one, and that's why it's successful, which is amazing. So I would like for you to go into, firstly, I just want to say you have amazing children, and Chaya is amazing, and she is just starting to build a mikvah, so if anybody would like to participate in that, I will put it in the chat box, in the link on the recording, and I'll give you a link that you can donate Any amount will be appreciated. You don't have to, but it's just special to be a partner with what the Rebbe wants and to be part of the incredible work that they're doing. I never merited yet to go to Turks and Caicos, but hopefully I will have a visit. And your son they should both keep making you proud, because you're so proud, and it's amazing because you have a lot of accomplishments. The Aleph Institute started from the Rebbe's, my uncle, which is Rabbi Shalom Lipsker, the Rebbe was at a Farbrengen, and he wanted to know why people are not doing his will. And Rabbi Lipsker took it upon himself to start the Aleph Institute with the Rebbe's guidance. And today it helps so many Jewish, people around the world.
I think actually I want to share something, because I think the story of how the Rebbe spoke about Jewish prisoners and how Aleph was started is actually very on point to how the Rebbe's outlook and the Rebbe's impact. So the Rebbe had such an interesting approach to Jews in prison. People think, oh my gosh, there are Jews in prison, they get all weirded out. But the Rebbe said like this: the Rebbe said that God created man to toil, humans to toil, to accomplish. And he said the most inhumane thing you could do to a human being is to warehouse that human being and say, you are not going to accomplish anything now. I'm taking away all your ability to have any accomplishment. And the Rebbe said that is the most difficult thing for a human being. Said that a person in a hospital is sick. So maybe there's something wrong with their heart, there's something wrong with their head, or something wrong with their hand, or whatever. The rest of their existence is functioning. The rest of their being is functioning. But a person in prison is not functioning, because the whole functionality of a person is to accomplish. When you take away that ability to accomplish, you've taken away their humanness. And that's why the Rebbe said it's so important to help Jews in prison and visit them. And the Rebbe added, God loves those that are downtrodden. And that was the Rebbe's approach. The Rebbe said, how do we lift up the Jewish people? By finding the people at the bottom and lifting them up. And that's how you lift up a building with a lever. Then you lift up the bottom of society, and that's how you lift up the whole Jewish people. And the Rebbe always was looking out for those that are forgotten, that for those that are not, people don't like looking at. One of the most beautiful, unfortunately there's no video of this, but one of the most beautiful meetings the Rebbe had was with a group of soldiers from the IDF that were injured. There's pictures and there's audio, but there's no video. And you could see in the pictures and you could hear in the audio the love and the respect that the Rebbe had for these soldiers that were in wheelchairs and all kinds of injuries. And the Rebbe walked to each one. Didn't have them come to him. They could have come to him. He walked to each one individually and gave them $1 for tzedakah. But he showed each one so much, so much respect and grace and acceptance. And that's the Rebbe. The Rebbe's whole approach was that everyone is important. Every single person is important, and that's why he said that people who are invalid, they shouldn't be called. They should be called special. That was the Rebbe's whole word. The Rebbe changed the way we look at people with challenges. Instead of saying that they're what's the word that the word uses for them, for people who are what's that? I'm missing the word.
Well, I don't like to say the word, but it starts with an R.
No, not that.
Special needs.
Special needs or whatever. The Rebbe was the one that changed it to special. They used to be called other words.
Not good word.
Anyway, so the bottom line is that the Rebbe's impact, back to the Rebbe's impact. The Rebbe's impact today is so massive. First of all, just start with Tefillin. Tefillin was big before October 7th, but after October 7th, many other people who weren't busy putting on Tefillin, many Chabad individuals who are not Chabad rabbis, or are not shluchim, or not emissaries of the Rebbe, took on this idea of getting people to put on Tefillin, and even non-Lubavitchers. There are many. That's the Rebbe's impact. And today, I don't know if the number is hundreds or thousands, but it's a large number of people that are not Chabad Hasidim, not Lubavitchers, And I meet them all the time. They tell me, they come to confide in me, and they say, I put on tefillin with people I have people in my office putting on tefillin every day, where I put on tefillin with a person on the plane. They come over to me all excited. How do you do it? What do you do? What's your move? What's your pickup line? And they're excited about it. These are people that are some of them are not even religious. They barely put on tefillin themselves, and they're putting on tefillin on others. That's the Rebbe's impact. The Rebbe's impact is off the chain. There's no way to even put it in numbers. It's so massive how people are doing what the Rebbe wanted today more than ever. It's like there's no words to even describe it. How the Rebbe's impact on so many levels. I mean, we could go on and on and on and on, but bringing it back to the connecting to the Rebbe, and that's something important, because a lot of people think that they're connected to the Rebbe just because they know a Chabad rabbi, and that is true in a way, but I don't think that's enough. I think people, in addition to being connected to a Chabad rabbi and maybe davening in a Chabad shul, or going to a Friday night dinner at a Chabad house in Thailand or whatever it may be, that's beautiful, and you are connected to the Rebbe. I'm not diminishing that in any way, but I think it's important that people have a stronger connection to the Rebbe, and they can have a stronger connection. First of all, by studying the Rebbe's Torah, which is very much accessible online for free. Go to Chabad.org. You have thousands and thousands of books, of articles, everything. It's just hang out on Chabad.org, you'll find everything, and many other websites. Coming to the Ohel is very, very important and powerful, especially in the proximity of the Rebbe's yard site, the Rebbe's pass of the anniversary.
I just want to.
It's a little busy.
I just want to say, unfortunately, I don't have someone techie to post it, but we are going to post also the address on the description of the Ohel, which is, if anyone's listening now and they want to visit the Ohel, it's 226-20 Francis Lewis Boulevard, Jamaica, New York, 11411. Or you can go to Ohel Chabad, you can put it in Lyft or Uber, it'll come up. If you put the OL, it would come up right away. There are hundreds of visitors a day that come to the Ohel from all different backgrounds. Thousands. You don't have to be Chabad to go to the Ohel. But today we're going to hear the impact, what the OL can do for you, and why you should visit the OL, even if you are not necessarily someone that's so connected to the Rebbe, just to get a blessing. So if you can tell us some stories and inspiration.
Right. So for those who are not in New York City, in the area, and it's hard to get to the Ohel, can't get here, there's other ways to write in for a blessing to the Ohel. There's a website called Ohel Chabad. The website is ohelchabad.org, I think. Pretty sure, ohelchabad.org.
Or ohel.com. Just go ohel.com, and it'll take you directly to send it says send a letter. You click it, you write in your name and your mom's name. So my name is Kaya.
Type an email. You can actually type an email. You could use a form. You
could type an email, and I kid you not, but it will always make you feel better every time. I'm talking from experience. You could write your heart out
all the time, by the way. I just, I'm not in New York. I live in Miami, and I'll just go to my computer and type an email, and they print it out, and they tear it up, and they bring it into the Rebbe's the resting place and tear it up there, and that's been, I've got many good results from that. So you could try that out. But going to the Ohel is I can't describe it, and it's hard to put it in words, but anyone who's been here can tell you that they felt very uplifted and spiritual, and they've seen the results of their prayers being answered. We could go on, we could do this for 24 hours straight, talking about the stories of how people their prayers have been answered by visiting the Ohel. But I'll just tell you two stories that I heard this week myself. I was on a plane on Friday coming to the Ohel. I spent the Shabbat at the Ohel this weekend. So I was on a plane Friday morning, and I was sitting next to a Orthodox Jew, and I asked him, when was the last time you went to the Ohel? And he lives in Miami. I know his family for my whole life, and he said, "Well, I think I was there 20 years ago." I said, "Why don't you go to the Ohel? You're landing in JFK. It's Uber. It's a 15-minute Uber. I'll give you a ride and whatever." And he said, "No, I'm busy. I can't really go." And then we start talking further, and he says, "My two children, they just had children. Were blessed with children as a blessing from going to the Ohel. They both individually went to the Ohel. They couldn't have children, and they just had a child, and actually going in for the Shalom Zachar of this child." And I'm like looking at him like he's nuts. I say, "You're telling me that the Rebbe gave you a blessing to have a grandchild, and you're not going to go to the Rebbe to say thank you?" And he says, "Oh, and the child's in the NICU, was born early in the NICU." I said, "You're out of your mind." Anyway, by the end of the conversation, he went to the Ohel right after the plane ride. This is the guy that was not going to the Ohel, hasn't been to the Ohel in 20 years, and says that both of his children just had babies from answer from the Rebbe going to the Ohel. Another story, just happened to walk into the Shul Harbor Thursday night. They have a study session of Mishmar, and I'm talking with this Satmar Jew, and I say, "Why don't you go to the Ohel for Gimel Tammuz? You go to New York every week. Why don't you go to the Ohel?" "No, I don't even go to the Satmar Rebbe's Ohel. Why should I go to the Lubavitch Rebbe's Ohel?" And I said, "Come on, you're here. You're connected. You have to go." And he says, "You know what? I'll tell you a story. I had a story with the Ohel. I couldn't get my son into yeshiva. I was fighting with the yeshiva for 6 months. We refused to let him into the yeshiva. And my wife's friends said they're going to the Ohel, and they asked my wife if she wants to go with them. And she said, sure, she'll go with them. And she went, and then all of a sudden I get a call from the yeshiva that he was accepted. And I called my wife to tell her I didn't know where she was. I didn't know she went to the Ohel, nothing. Called my wife, she says, "You won't believe this. I just walked out of the Ohel." These are two stories that I heard in the last 40 hours. This is just, the stories are endless. But the truth is that we shouldn't go to the Ohel because we have a problem. We shouldn't go to the Ohel just because we need something. We should go to the Ohel to connect. Because like I said, a Rebbe is someone that helps us to connect with God. And if you want to have a more intrinsic connection with God, this is the way God designed it, not me. God designed that there should be a Moshe Rabbeinu, a Moses, and there's a Moses in every generation. This is not made up stuff. This is all from Jewish teachings. This is not a Chabad thing. This is everyone. God designed that He wants that there should be a Moshe Rabbeinu, and in every generation there's a Moshe Rabbeinu. And until someone can show me someone else that is a Moshe Rabbeinu, my Moshe Rabbeinu is the Rebbe. And even though he's not alive physically, but he's here, and could have been buried in Israel. He chose to be buried in the United States because Yazav is Marise. The Rebbe doesn't leave his young alone, his children. He doesn't leave his children alone. And this is a sacrifice that the Rebbe makes. It's a sacrifice that the Rebbe made his whole life. The Rebbe didn't want to be involved in leadership. The Rebbe wanted to sit and study Torah. The Rebbe wanted to be a private person. He never asked for this. In fact, they say that the Rebbe was, we know that the Rebbe was refusing to accept the leadership. And the only reason why he accepted is because his wife told him, if you're not going to take on the leadership, then everything my father accomplished will go for naught. And so the Rebbe made a major sacrifice. And he talks about this, again, not about him, talks about his father-in-law, that Rebbes are this is something that's it's a duty. It's not something the Rebbe's, it's a major sacrifice that the Rebbe's make for us. And the Rebbe stayed here in America, so he should be easily accessible. And the Rebbe's here for us. It's it's not the same as when he was alive. It's much more, it's different, but it works. It works, and it's if you believe in it, if you prepare properly, if you understand what it means to pray at a gravesite of a Rebbe, again, different than praying at the gravesite of a tzaddik. It's a different. We're not going to get into the nitty-gritty, but there's a difference. And if you know what you're doing and you prepare properly and you really believe that the Rebbe is that connection, that Moshe Rabbeinu for you, and you not just ask, but you give as well. That you give it tzedakah, that you study a little some Torah, and you study some of his teachings. You prepare spiritually. You can't just walk in. It's like walking into a king. You don't walk in, coming from work dirty. You take a shower, you get dressed. Same thing. You're going to the Rebbe. You have to prepare. You have to daven like a good. You have to daven properly. You have to give tzedakah. You have to do good deeds. You have to prepare. You can't just walk in. You can't just walk into the audience with the king. So if you do that, it will work. It will definitely work. And anyone could do it. Again, you could. It's 24/7. The Ohel is open 24/7, 365 days a year. You don't need any appointment. You just walk in, and there's people that can help you. There's a guide there. There's a pamphlet you can read that explains you what to do, when to do, how to do. There's people there that can help you as well. It's very easy, very friendly, very user friendly though. And if you can't make it, just go online and write a letter to the Rebbe. But definitely don't pass up on this opportunity to have this special connection and this help that we all need. We're all very limited. And even the most religious, most spiritual person, again, is a human being with a human body, with an animal, with an evil inclination, we need help. We can't do this alone. And God gives us help. And this is one of the ways that God helps. And you can't tell God help me, and then God keeps on sending help, and you say, God, where are you? What do you mean? I sent you help. Well, here's the way that God is helping you. God is helping you to connect, to have a connection, and you just be smart and use out that connection. Especially if you live in the tri-state area, you have to be crazy not to get into your car and come here. I mean, there's people that live 15 minutes away from here. 5 towns. There's probably 500,000 Jews in the 5 towns. How many of those 500,000 Jews have been at the Ohel? Not many. Maybe 100,000 of them. There's still 400,000. There's probably more Jews in the 5 towns. But anyway. And the same thing with Manhattan and Brooklyn, wherever you are. In fact, there's buses going now, I think, from Borough Park, Flatbush, Lakewood, Manhattan.
Also Manhattan.
I'm gonna send you that. I'll send you the link to the buses if you want to post that as well.
For sure, I will. Can you tell us a couple of more stories offhand of the Ohel, just to inspire us all?
Stories of the Ohel. So stories of the Ohel. The stories come and go. I don't have like the stories stored. I don't have them all stored, but it's. I mean, I can tell you myself. I can tell you.
Tell us your personal stories.
So I don't have any crazy stories at all, but I can tell you that every single time I've had many challenges. We all have many challenges. We all have challenging times, challenging days, challenging situations, and every single time I've had a challenging situation, I've come to the Ohel and I've written and prayed for it. Everything worked out perfectly. Everything. I've never. And again, it's not like I have this. We could go on and on. I mean, but it's. I can tell you in my life, anytime I've had any situation where I've felt that I need a sign, I need clarity, I need a blessing, I need this to work out, without fail, every single time, whatever was bothering me or whatever issues I had were all resolved after I went to the Ohel, 100%, without question.
So I want to just add to that. every time I went to the Ohel and I had issues, I mean, we all have things. We're living in gullus, dark times. I always saw the light after, or I would get like my messages that I asked for. That's for a whole nother story, but I sent someone to the Ohel, and right after that, things weren't going so well in his life. And right after that, he met his wife. And it was his first time connecting in many years. And it was just, it was so beautiful to see. The proof is in the pudding. And I got to see, it's so nice to see. Sometimes we have to wait till 120 to go upstairs to see like the results. But when you see it with our own eyes, it's just amazing. And then on my classes, this is something that we do weekly. Every single week, I do this for the Rebbe. And we bring the Rebbe to the people with stories and journeys. And one of our, I would say chassid, like a big chassid of the class, someone that comes on every single week, she never went to the Ohel, and then something came up for her medically, and I told her to write it into the Ohel, like even if you're not ready. And she wrote in, and she goes, "Do you think I got an answer?" I'm like, "Of course you did. You got good results. That was your answer." And everything came back clear. And she's now, every day she's more and more of a believer. And I'm like, tap into this gift. And everyone should tap into this gift, because why should I keep what I know for myself? I want to share it with the world. And
And I
anything
want to go. I want to jump in. I want to jump in for a second, because that's a very important point, and something I feel very guilty about. That I haven't been pushing people to go to the Ohel as much as I should have, and a lot of your viewers have been to the Ohel. Anyone who's watching this has been to the Ohel. If you're not sharing that with all your friends and all your family, you're doing them a disservice, and they're going to be upset at you one day. They're going to come to you. You went to the Ohel, you didn't tell me. Why would you keep this to yourself? They're going to be angry at us. So that's another thing we need to do is we need to enlighten people and teach them and bring them to the Ohel and share. When you go to a good restaurant, you tell everyone, "I just went to this amazing restaurant." Well, if you know something, if you know of a powerful place where people can be connected and people's prayers can be answered, and you don't tell people, that's not good. We got to change that. And I think that's something that we could take on a good resolution for the Rebbe's yard site 30 years after the Rebbe passing. If every Lubavitcher would start sharing and encouraging people to go, that would be a very befitting way to honor the Rebbe on his 30th yard site.
100%. So today, that's our goal, is to share with you the impact of our Rebbe. There's so much more. I mean, we can go on for hours for bringing, but just seeing how emotional that you got speaking about your children, and it just shows that you're doing the Rebbe's work if your children are connected. And how can we get our children connected to the Rebbe? By being an example. And that's who you are, Mendy. You are an example to your children. They see you putting on tefillin. Like, sometimes, like, I'm sure sometimes it's not so pleasant, or you don't always get, like, you keep going, you don't stop. That's your mission. You're putting on tefillin, and your children are watching you, everything that you're doing.
I want to share one. I want to share one more tefillin story, which is another thing that's very important for all those men that are listening to this. That carrying tefillin with you wherever you go is so powerful. I want to tell you a story that happened to me 2 weeks ago. I was in Manhattan on a Sunday, and I went to Aida for brunch, and I had my
just saying we're sharing, that is a really good restaurant, so everyone should check it out.
So I had my tefillin with me, like I always have, in a pouch strapped to my and I saw a religious Jew wearing a yarmulke. It looked very religious. It wasn't like, not even modern Orthodox, very pretty Haredi looking. And I saw him, like, notice my tefillin, and he, like, smirked, and I was like, why is that guy smirking at me? And I sat down, and like 5 minutes later, he got the courage to come over to me. He says, "Is that tefillin? Could I use your tefillin? I live in Tom's River, and I'm not going to make it home before sundown, and I want to put on tefillin." And I gave him the tefillin, of course, and I had to start a whole conversation with him. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people that are officially Orthodox. Their wives wear shaitels, and they keep Shabbos, and they go to shul, but they don't put on tefillin for whatever reason. I don't know why. I can't comprehend it, but whatever it is what it is. And we got this whole conversation. He explained it, and he said, "Yeah, I'm going to try harder. I'm going to make it happen. Not going to miss tefillin. I'm trying not to miss tefillin." And all of a sudden, and I exchange information. I'm going to send them a book and so on. And the next morning, I've been sitting at the Ohel, and I get a picture from him with him putting on tefillin. He says, "I just want to check in with you. I feel like you're like my tefillin coach, like you're my AA sponsor." And every day since then, he sends me a picture of him putting on tefillin, and it's we don't know what we can accomplish by simply carrying tefillin with you. So I didn't even ask him to put on tefillin. I just had the tefillin with me. So you don't know how powerful it is just to have tefillin with you. And by the way, he of course inspired me, because after that, I went and got 10 more tefillin in the restaurant. I don't know if I would have done it. I was sitting with my family. I wasn't, I always carry my tefillin. I probably would have asked, but not with that gusto. He gave me the gusto to go and, conquer Habaita. So it's a two-way street. It's we inspire, others inspire us. We inspire each other. But you gotta carry the tefillin. If you don't have the tefillin, it wouldn't work. You got to talk to people. You can't ignore people. If you see someone, say hello to them, talk to them, encourage them. Anytime you meet another Jew, even if they're not Jewish, anytime you meet another human being, say hello to them, talk to them, encourage them to be connected to God. Talk about the 7 laws of Noah to non-Jews. Talk to women about lighting Shabbat candles. Every single that was the Rebbe. The Rebbe's impact is that he made every single Jew his emissary. Every Jew, not just a Chabad Jew. Every Jew can be the Rebbe's emissary, because that's what the Rebbe preached. The Rebbe preached to reach out to everyone. The Rebbe spoke hundreds, if not thousands, of hours on cable TV to non-Jews. The Rebbe was not only about Jewish people. And by the way, there are thousands of non-Jews that come to the Ohel on a regular basis, repeat non-Jews that come on a regular basis. There are probably non-Jews that come more often than Jews.
So I just want to weigh in for 1 minute, like what you're saying about non-Jews coming to the Ohel. I have a lot of Uber driver stories, and I feel that Hashem gives me these stories because now I have this platform that I can share. I've shared it before, and I actually have the video. I could post it on the recording as well, or someone could reach out to me. But I was in an Uber on the way to the Ohel, and there was an Uber driver, and he told me that he's not Jewish, and he said that, sorry, it wasn't on the way to the Ohel. There was Jewish nigunim, which is melodies, playing in his car. And I was like, what is happening here? I was going from Bar Park, point A, back to Crown Heights. So I whipped out my phone and I said, what are you listening to? What are you listening to? And he said that, it's something that he really likes, and he feels that all the other music is junk. And he was singing along to these nigunim, and I was just blown away. And he said to me that someone told him about going to the Ohel, and he goes, and every time he goes, he gets answered. And in fact, like, it all came true. And I was like, how stupid am I? Why am I not going more to the Ohel? Here's a Gentile telling me that he goes to the Ohel and the Rebbe is giving him what he asked for. And how stupid am I? I haven't been there in months. And it was like literally like a sign from the Rebbe that was telling me, come to me, come to me, come to me. And it was just mind-boggling. And I took the opportunity. I took his number, and I actually sent him a book all about the Rebbe. I don't believe in keeping it just for Jewish people. Like, everyone should know about his greatness and his influence on the world, because right now we're living in a dark world, and there's going to be light, and we need to be the light in the tunnel, not wait for after the tunnel. That's a direct line from Shaindy Jacobson. We have to be the light in the tunnel by asking someone, did you light Shabbat candles? Did you put on tefillin today? That's being the light in someone's life. And it was just such a example to me. And I was like, wow, I really need to start connecting. I think that's the day that I started to connect more. And it doesn't mean just because we have something in our life, sometimes we get sidetracked, or, we're not grounded, and we get like outside influences. But at the end of the day, we have to go back to the MS, to the truth. And I want everyone to go to the Ohel, because every single time I can bring now for an hour, every time I went to the Ohel, I got my answers. And it was very clear. And I guess the Rebbe knows that I need that clear, and he gives it to me. And I'm someone that like met him at 9 years old, and he saw something in me, and like, whoever thought that I'm going to be doing this platform, but at the end of the day, we all have the opportunity to spread more light into the world, and we must. And it could be in your own kind of way. We're a puzzle, and we have to. We have to do it for Hirsch Ben Parachana, Hirsch Paulin, who is a hostage, and I'm saying his full name, but I don't know the other hostages' names. There's 120 hostages that we are responsible for. We need to bring them home. And the way we're going to bring them home is, yes, it's really important to make noise, but do it spiritually. Tefillin. We saw in Bell Harbor, there was a story, and I mentioned it on our classes a few weeks ago. Devorah and Druzier, the rabbi's daughter, shared how her mom was, she used the word chutzpahdik. She came up there, and there were a lot of hostages, families come to Bell Harbor for guidance, to bring awareness, and Mendy could weigh in on this, but she said to this family, like, what are you doing for your father and your father-in-law? Yes, we're all taking on, but what are you going to do? I want you to put tefillin on. And the guy was, hesitated, and he goes, you're going to make your father-in-law wait a week, 2 weeks? Guess what? He got tefillin, and then his daughter asked my aunt, Hani Lipsker, can I have another one for when my father will come out so he could put on tefillin? And she was speechless, and she said, of course. I believe a week or two weeks later, there was a rescue mission.
By the way, I just got my picture from that guy in Tom's River with his phone.
Wow. See, everything's from upstairs. That's amazing. So tell him to keep, he has to pay it forward. He can't just keep it for himself. He has to share it with his friends, and he's going to be watching this because I'm inspired by him. So I'm going to take on something else also. We all have something we can take on. And this girl had such a muna and betachan, belief and trust in God, that her father's going to come out, that she wasn't, I can't say she was fully practicing. However, she believed that her father is going to put tefillin on, and today he has his tefillin. So we all have an obligation right now in this world. It's a dark place, to do more. And we all have to take on something. My heart breaks every day. I'm like, what am I doing for the hostages? Am I doing enough? And the answer is absolutely not. I'm not doing enough. And we're all not doing enough. We become numb, and all the darkness and the noise, it's going to be there. But at the end of the day, like, we can be the light in the darkness by taking on mitzvot and spreading light. And that's what the Rebbe said. He said in your article, what's going to bring Mashiach? One more good deed. Okay. And right now, I think every single person from every single background in the Jewish world realizes that we only have each other. And bringing Mashiach, it means that we have to do more goodness and kindness into the world, have more Avos Yisrael, be there for your fellow friends, and connect more to God, because that's the only thing we have for us is Hashem. Hashem is the only one that can help us to take us out of this. But we're the puzzle, and we have to make it happen. So we have to together make it happen, that all the hostages come home whole and complete. And it's weighing on my heart, and I'm sure it's weighing on all your hearts, and we have to do more for that. So we always start off with Tehillim every day. Say Tehillim for them. We never know who's going to tip the scale. So Mendy, we're going to close now, and I want you to give a closing statement.
Okay. So the closing statement I already said, I'll say it again. You in life, you have opportunities, and sometimes you have missed opportunities. And there are many Jewish people that think that they have perfect, everything's good, and that their family, all their children are going the right way, and they all have shidduchim, and they all everything's working well, and they have a shiur, and they do good deeds, and everything's beautiful. But I'm telling you now, if you're not connected to the Rebbe, you're missing something in your life. You may not know it, but why not? It's not going to hurt you. Try it out. Come to the Ohel, study a little of the Rebbe's teachings, find out a little more about the Rebbe's approach to life and his approach to Judaism, and learn Chassidus. You have to also learn Chassidic philosophy. That's part of it too. But there's nothing like coming to the Ohel and being spiritual and asking for a blessing and praying. Again, not because you need anything. Just come to have a greater connection to God, a more intrinsic connection to God. Whatever connection you have now, your connection can be more intrinsic, and there's no better way to have a more intrinsic connection to God than by coming to the Ohel. So my parting words are: get in the car and drive to the Ohel, or get on your computer and write an email, fill out the form, and ask for a blessing and connect.
Amen to that. And I'm going to ask you just real fast, when someone, if someone doesn't have any chassidus in their life, where should they start?
Today's day and age, Chassidus is available at the tip of your fingertips everywhere. I mean, you could go to yeshiva.net, you could go to Chabad.org, you could go to torcafe.com, you could go to, there's a million websites that have.
Or you could go to
unlimited.
youtube.com, Chayamink, CHAYAMINK. We have a lot of stories and journeys, incredible speakers. We don't generally have men on our platform, but I felt it was really important to have this talk. And sometimes we are going to have pre-recordings of incredible influencers, and Mendy is that person. He influences many people on a daily basis. He could probably write a book, which we're going to talk about privately. But I'm really thankful and honored that you did this today. You're not in your space right now. You're not in your home. In fact, you are like going to the Ohel shortly.
Yes.
So you found a quiet space to do this recording. And I hope today, if you hear this and you have an Ohel story or you have a Rebbe story, please reach out to me. I would love to hear it. We'd love to feature it if we can. But it's really important to share your stories with the world and your Rebbe stories with the world, and not to keep it for you if it's not too private, because everyone can learn from it, especially those that never met the Rebbe or only had the Rebbe in their life for such a short time. But I know that every single time I hear a Rebbe story, I get inspired to do more. So please keep sharing your stories. Don't keep it for yourself. And Mendy, thank you. And Hashem should continue to bless you and your family with everything that you need, spiritually, materially. You should never have to ask for anything. And you should have the strength to keep putting on tefillin and inspiring everyone around you to do it. It's really something that I admire. It's really special. So thank you for that. And thank you for really living the Rebbe's mission. You live in Bell Harbor, Florida. You can get away with a lot living in a place like that, but you keep your morals and everything that you were taught as a child. And, you're very loved, and your wife is very loved, Rachel. And thank you for doing what you do for Olive. You mentioned you're going to the prisons right after this as well to visit prisoners who can use a smile on their face, be the reason why someone smiles today, just by showing up and being there for them. And that's what you represent. So thank you. And I really think it's also, you're blessed. It's an opportunity, and you're gifted that you're able to do it, but everyone can do what they can do in their own way. And don't think like, oh, let the other guy do it. Let the Chabad guy do it. No, you need to do it too, because you could reach people that, Mendy can't in your offices. And, you never know which mitzvah is going to tip the scale. So don't lose the opportunity. Anyways, have a blessed day. And I hope everyone has a meaningful Gimel Tammuz and you connect. And I want to say this, leave my words of leaving off. Keep the Rebbe in your life and you'll be all right.
Bye. Take care.
True story. Thank you very, very much again. And I just want to quickly say my thank yous. I want to thank Shem for this opportunity that I get to do this class weekly. I want to thank the Rebbe. I want to thank all the ambassadors of the class that spreads this class. And I want to thank my husband for sharing this class, and Shaindy Jacobson. Thank you so, so much. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, CHAYAMINK. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful week.